jumped out to lead 2-0 in Game 3, 5-3 at the end of the first period in Game 4. Both teams know how important this first period is here in Chicago.
Well, I think the Blackhawks are ready by the way that they were buzzing around out there in the pregame warm-ups. And, of course, one player in particular, Al Troutwig talked about him, Dennis Savard. He really wants to win this game badly. He's got a grudge going against Glenn Sather.
And the puck is shot in. Bannerman stops it for Bergevin. Secord. It goes off his stick to center ice. This is Secord in his own zone, looking for his man. Larmer almost beats Jackson back. Both of them go down. Randy Gregg feeds it ahead. Edmonton in the Chicago zone. Messier is bumped and knocked to the ice by Bergevin. Messier, though, stays with it. Behind the net it goes. And Anderson is knocked off the puck, and now the net is knocked off the magnet.
Now the Edmonton Oilers did a little bit of changing in game number 5 in Edmonton. They put Don Jackson back into the lineup. Jackson and Gregg, who were just out there on that last line shift of Glenn Sather's, had played together so much over the course of the last couple of years that Glenn Sather decided to put Jackson back in the lineup and took Larry Melnick out. Pat Hughes was taken out of the lineup, and the former New York Islander, Billy Carroll, was inserted in his place.
These two teams have combined on 59 goals in 5 games. They have scored 29 of those in the last 2. Olczyk shoots it in. Olczyk, 16, chases after it. Fraser has it. He looks in front and is belted by Gretzky. Fraser stays with it, and Troy Murray chases it back and puts it in the corner. Fraser behind the net in front. Murray shoots. Saved by Fuhr. And here come the Oilers the other way. Broken up by Doug Wilson. Point blank, and Fuhr stopped that one. Fraser along with Olczyk. Olczyk can't squeeze his way through. And the Oilers back the other way. Yari Curry, who has 3 hat tricks in the playoffs. And the Oilers go in offside. For our local systems, we pause now. USA Sports is bringing you the Stanley Cup playoffs. We'll be right back.
If you subscribe to the
Points in the one game. Troy Murray chasing it down for Chicago. And it is Yari Curry getting it back to his defense. Charlie Huddy, minus the beard, it has come off. And now it is Coffey trying to get behind O'Callaghan. Curry behind the net. Gretzky is there. There is Gretzky. Curry hit. Gretzky in the slot for the backhand. Glove saved by Bannerman, but a penalty is coming up. A penalty had been called on the Chicago Blackhawks. No score 3 minutes into the game, and we'll be back with an Edmonton power play after this.
At the time, and the Edmonton Oilers on the power play,
which has been very ineffective against Chicago. 4 of 23 on the power play for the Oilers. No score. Mark Napier wraps it behind. Anderson, number 9 for the Oilers, can't get it. Now he does. He has DuPont right on him as it comes to the point. Randy Gregg fires. Kicked out by Bannerman. And it is Ben Wilson who clears.
Looking at the Blackhawks penalty killing, the last 33 times they've had to kill it off, they've done so successfully. 31 times, 93.9% at home. Unbelievable.
16.5 minutes to go in this first period as Randy Gregg dumps it in. Bob Murray finds the hole, but Curry takes it out of the air. And it comes back to the Edmonton zone. Coffey along with Huddy. He shaved his beard after game number 4 when they lost for Chicago. Here is Coffey. He fires, and it goes wide. Huddy, he slaps it, and it's blocked in front. Target practice from the points for the Oilers on the power play. Gretzky with some room in the corner. He finds Huddy, but he can't hold on. 40 seconds to go in the power play. Gretzky races it down. Out it goes to Huddy. Huddy to Napier. Napier searching. Gretzky looking to put it in front, but he is bodied by Wilson, and the crowd comes alive. Murray takes it off and has a one-on-one with Huddy. The long shot, and Fuhr steers it aside to Coffey.
The Blackhawks doing a good job of eliminating the Oilers on the body. They just take the man out of the play. That's exactly what you have to do against this team.
Here's a race for the puck, and Fuhr gets out there. Not only did the Blackhawks become penalized, but they lost Troy Murray, one of their top penalty killers. He's now out of the box. Murray slaps it, and it's off the foot of Huddy, and Huddy smacks it away. Savard, Larmer keeps it in, and he loses now to Curry. 3-on-2 for the Oilers. Gretzky back to Curry. He slaps it and scores! Jari Kurri from Gretzky, as Curry has scored his 15th goal of the playoffs. And it's 1-0 in favor of the Oilers.
Well, no sooner had the Blackhawks killed off the penalty. They had a good scoring opportunity, some pressure on the Edmonton Oilers. But as so often has happened in this series, then the Oilers come right straight back down the ice. Wayne Gretzky feeding to Jari Kurri. And Jari Kurri just winding up with a good shot right there. And right between Murray Bannerman's legs and in. Gretzky to Kurri, and Kurri finds the opening.
Well, in Game 4, it was Edmonton who scored the first goal before the Blackhawks got back. We are just underway here, 1-0 in favor of the Oilers. Kozar tied up by Savard. Gets it out to Carroll, and he slides that one wide. Now it is Daryl Sutter, the big goal scorer for the Blackhawks. Steve Larmer ridden out by Jackson, and we have a penalty coming up against the Oilers. Jari Kurri got the goal from Gretzky at 5:12, 1-0. Edmonton leads, but now it's Chicago on the power play. For our local systems, we pause now the Stanley Cup on USA.
Grab it. Oh, look. Oh, my goodness. Forget about it. It's all over with a big right hand by Young to win the fight.
Well, Billy Carroll, number 20 for the Edmonton Oilers, gets a tripping penalty. 5:42 is the time, and this will set up the Chicago Blackhawks opportunity now on the power play.
Chicago in Game 5 had 5 goals in defeat, all of them on the power play. And the Oilers knew they can't get into penalty trouble here tonight. Doug Wilson, cross ice to Bob Murray. He fires, kick saved by Fuhr as he gobbles it up.
Well, Grant Fuhr knows that he has to come back into this building and prove something to himself, that game number 4 was a fluke for Grant Fuhr. The Blackhawks won't believe that, but Fuhr did not have a good night by any stretch of the imagination. But tonight it's of extreme importance to the Edmonton Oilers if they want a little bit of a rest before going on to the Stanley Cup Finals, to actually get a few days off before they have to do so. But again, the Chicago Blackhawks are going to have a lot to say about that tonight.
Plus, Edmonton doesn't want to roll the dice in the 7th game. Key guy, Gretzky, could get injured. A goaltender could have an off night. They don't want to get into that situation into a 7th game.
Well, especially when you have won as big as they have won in Edmonton.
Gretzky, who had 11 shorthanded goals this year. Daryl Sutter with Lowe, putting the body to Sutter. And then Troy Murray comes in. And now the Blackhawks spread it out. It is Doug Wilson with a potent shot. Bob Murray. Corner it goes. Return to Doug Wilson. Side of the net, Murray. Working it around, but working it out. Steve Larmer is the big man on the power play for the Hawks. This year he had 14 power play goals. He has 5 in the playoffs. And 1:10 remaining in the penalty to Billy Carroll of the Oilers.
Well, Daryl Sutter was offside on that last play, but he also got a shot in his left hand, and I think that stung. Daryl Sutter trying to shake it off when he was going to the bench. I mentioned, as you did, Al, about the fact of having to go back for game number 7 to Edmonton, and the fact that the Edmonton Oilers have won by such big scores. you're a little bit concerned if you have to go back and play the Chicago Blackhawks again in that building, for the reason being kind of odds are against you.
Although I think I'd kind of like Edmonton's odds.
So would I, but sooner or later, the pride of the Chicago Blackhawks would change something, you would think.
O'Callaghan goes to set it up now for the Hawks. Bringing it out for Chicago and slapping it in. Savard right in front. And it is cleared now by Hunter. Savard turns it back the other way. Savard racing over the Edmonton line. He drops it, and O'Callaghan keeps it in. Now a fight. Randy Boyd for Chicago, and he has one of the Oilers pressed up against his own bench.
Kind of a dangerous place for a fight to break out, right in front of the Oiler bench. And of course, referee Brian Lewis will be watching the Oiler players on the bench very closely, that they don't try to get a free shot away on Randy Boyd. And boy, D'Amico is having a difficult time keeping Randy Boyd away. John D'Amico, the linesman there, who is holding Randy Boyd, probably one of the strongest linesmen in the NHL.
Well, it is broken up. 1-0. Edmonton leads. We'll be back to Chicago after these words. As Randy Boyd and Paul Coffey dueling each other. They each get 5 minutes for fighting, but Boyd also gets a 2-minute penalty for roughing.
Well, the Blackhawks are not too happy about that, but Boyd, I think, was definitely the aggressor along the boards there. Paul Coffey, not one to back down from a fight, but he knows where his value is. It is not sitting in the penalty box for 5 minutes. It is out there on the ice doing the type of damage that he did in game number 5 in Edmonton,
when he had a goal and 5 assists, 6 points, the most ever by a defenseman in a Stanley Cup game. So Billy Carroll still has 31 seconds left in his penalty. The teams will skate even for that 31 seconds. And then the Oilers will have a man advantage. 1-0. Edmonton leads on the goal by Yari Curry, which was his 9th goal in this series. And that ties another NHL record. Mike Bossy, Bill Barber, Reggie Leach also had 9 goals in a series. And Curry still has some more time to go in this one. So the record's certainly falling when these two teams hooked up in this conference final.
You got to believe that when you have had 5 games the way that we have had 5 games in this series, that, as you and Al Trotway both had indicated, Al, in our opening, that you're going to see a fair number of them here in this game tonight. Almost 12 goals a game we have seen in this Edmonton and Chicago series.
And the grudges are certainly developing. As a matter of fact, it was Coffey who was just in that fight after the 4th game here in Chicago, calling the Blackhawks a dirty, cheap team. Cheap shots throughout the series in Chicago. Anderson takes the shot. And it's Jackson who's wrapped by Secor. Wilson behind. And he takes a shot from Messier. And now it is Savard weaving out. Hits Wilson. Kept in at the point. Wilson again. Closes in. Fires. As Fuhr stands up to that bullet shot by Wilson. Lead pass to Gretzky against Bannerman. As it's deflected into the crowd. Bannerman may have gotten a piece, stopping Gretzky.
Well, you know, I think that opportunity by Gretzky may have been offside. I'm not sure. In this building, it is so hard to hear whistles. Brian Lewis had signaled face-off outside the blue. Let's watch Gretzky come in. He goes to his backhand. Bannerman coming way across, but Gretzky went way up top, meaning to go high up in the net. Well, it just didn't work that way. One more time. Watch Gretzky. He's got those legs wide apart. Now he goes up. Does Bannerman get a piece of it? Very difficult to tell, but I've got to think so, because of the way that puck all of a sudden ended up about 4 feet high of the net. Wayne Gretzky, just a tremendous hockey player, but has had difficulties playing in this building, Chicago Stadium. He has not been able to get away from his checks in game number 3 and 4. And of course, that check was set up by Troy Murray. And Gretzky complimented Troy Murray by saying he's one of the best shadows I have had in the NHL, for the reason being he doesn't yell at you, he doesn't call you names, and he doesn't stick with you all the time. He lets you go to the corners. I'm not going to score from the corners. He waits for me in the center ice area. Eventually, I have to come back there in order to try and score.
Gretzky said a big problem of his in the Chicago games is that he was looking for Troy Murray instead of having Troy Murray chase him. Edmonton on the power play. Here is Gretzky, who had his 37-game scoring streak snapped in Chicago in Game 3. Charlie Huddy to regroup for the Oilers, which lead 1-0 in game number 6. Yari Curry slaps it in. It is taken by Troy Murray and knocked into the crowd by Jerome Dupont.
Well, the Chicago Blackhawks tonight going with 7 defensemen out there, and of course we all know why, because of the injuries that they have had. Steve Ludzik, number 29 for the Blackhawks, doing some fine penalty killing. He's missed his center iceman, Billy Gardner, and of course Murray Bannerman has missed a healthy team in front of him. He has had lots of action in this series, but yet has performed very well here at Chicago Stadium. I think in game number 4 he was excellent, even though he allowed 6 goals, and that is very difficult to rationalize.
Well, he has an average of 6.43 against Edmonton, but everybody realizes that Bannerman is the key to Chicago here tonight. He has a tired defense playing in front of him, and he has to be sharp. He has to be brilliant this evening. 30 seconds left on the power play for the Oilers. Gretzky goes back to get it, now leaves it to the defense. Gretzky with a crowd around him. Offside, says John D'Amico, as Yari Curry is arguing that.
Doug Wilson said after game number 4 here at Chicago that he had to play. He just realized that his groin was not going to get much better. Not much better for quite a while, and he's hoping that that groin will come back into shape over the course of the summer, but he was hoping not to wreck it much worse.
Speaking of injured groins, and speaking of Wilson's, Ben Wilson pulled his groin in game number 3, and he's been playing with that, and they say that he's as great pain as Doug Wilson.
Well, in fact, he did injure it more in game 5 in Edmonton, and he couldn't even hardly walk today, but you're right, he did that way back in game number 3, and it just kept getting a little bit worse.
20 seconds on the Oiler power play. Huddy goes side of the net. Messier can't get it. Wilson does, and he finds the opening and shoots it down. Low along the boards from Messier. Long pass intended for Gretzky, but slapped back. The team's now at equal strength. 10 minutes, 45 seconds to go in the first period. Deafening here at the Chicago Stadium, with the Blackhawks trailing by 1 goal. Olczyk on Huddy, and he smacks him into the boards. Kozar plays behind the net. The Hawks now forechecking deep as Dupont takes a run at Anderson, but it's picked up by Carroll. He's squashed along the boards by Secord. The Blackhawks playing the body as Lysiak breaks out to Secord. Secord, who's been held to just 1 goal in this series, and he bangs a man into the boards. Anderson back the other way. Curls to the red line with his teammate already in the zone. Bannerman stops it, looks for help. Secord with Gregg giving him a shove. Bob Murray, stick handling out, onto the stick of Secord. Goes cross ice as Fuhrer sticks it aside for Lowe. Picked up by Lumley. 3-on-3. Lumley loses on the check, and O'Callaghan starts to charge. Larmer fakes the shot and forgets the puck. 9.5 minutes left in the first period. 1-0. The Oilers on a goal by Yari Curry. His 15th to the playoffs. He leads in that category. Doug Wilson stops it. Savard, like radar, finds Sutter at the blue line. And he is ridden out of the play by Lowe. Carroll comes in for Edmonton. and they pin it along the boards, and we'll have a face-off deep in the Edmonton zone. For our local systems, we'll pause now. USA Sports is bringing you the Stanley Cup playoffs. This was over in 4, and here we are in game number 6, and the Blackhawks continue to scratch. Olczyk pushing his man away. And Krushelnyski behind his goal line flips to center ice. Bob Murray shoots it in. Don Jackson, who did not play the first 4 games. Murray, his shot is smothered, and it goes into the bench.
Glenn Sather has put Don Jackson back in the lineup to add some toughness. Now, speaking of toughness, this man, number 16, Ed Olczyk, from the Chicago Blackhawks, have been doing exactly that. He's been playing tough, rugged hockey. He said earlier, as we had mentioned, in game number 4 here, that Ed Olczyk has patterned his play after John Tonelli from the New York Islanders. That aggressive, hard-nosed style of play will earn Ed Olczyk a lot of favors here in Chicago. These people here at Chicago Stadium really love it when Ed Olczyk starts taking the body.
It was just a couple of years ago he was part of this crowd, cheering on his Blackhawks. And at 18 years old, here he is in the NHL, playing for his hometown team. Savard squaring off against number 24, McClellan, an enforcer, a bad boy on this Edmonton club. Steve Larmer loses. Lindstrom goes in, but Larmer gets it back. Savard looking to weave through. 8 minutes, 20 seconds left in the first period. 1-0 Oilers lead. Bob Murray looks up ice, connects with Sutter, but he can't hold on to that hard pass. Fogelin, who has played more playoff games than any Oiler in his experience, the veteran formerly of the Buffalo Sabres. O'Callaghan back for it for the Blackhawks, and he shoots it in. Lindstrom off the boards, plays it out. And it's O'Callaghan who chases it down for Chicago. Onto the stick of Secord. And off the stick of his teammate, Rick Patterson, and into the crowd.
Now, speaking about grinding type of hockey players, number 26, Rick Patterson, has been that type of player in playoffs for the Chicago Blackhawks. And he has been playing on a line tonight anyway with Secord and Lysiak a fair amount. The forwards for the Chicago Blackhawks are pretty healthy. They may have some deep bruises, but nothing that is going to affect them too much. But once again, the blue line of the Blackhawks defense really is injury-riddled.
Bob Pulford now has a line of Troy Murray with Secord staying on the left wing and Rick Patterson on the right wing against the Gretzky line. Here is Gretzky. In front, Anderson, and he shoots it wide. Patterson takes it off the boards and hustles out for Chicago. And from behind, Anderson stops him. Now Gretzky with room. Feeds it ahead to Napier. And a diving Doug Wilson stops the Oiler attack. 7 minutes, 15 seconds left in the first period. 1-0 Oilers lead. Napier winding it out. Back pass to Coffey. Anderson chases it down. At the point, it is kept in, but Secord moves Huddy. Troy Murray bodying anything. There he smashes into the boards. Murray, nice move to get away. And now Chicago busts out. 2-on-2. Secord, number 20, trailing the play. And Anderson picks it up for Edmonton. He has Messier. Messier angling in. Scores! 2-0 Edmonton.
Mark Messier just utilizing the muscle that he has. He's a very determined hockey player when he is of mind to play that way. Mark Messier is a real bull. Now watch, he just walks right around Bob Murray of the Blackhawks defense and just puts that puck right by Murray Bannerman. Watch, you can see Glenn Anderson, number 9, feeds Messier, and Messier, real sharp corner. He just turns in towards Bannerman, then tucks the puck right underneath of him. Mark Messier putting these Edmonton Oilers ahead by the score of 2-0, and Mark Messier has shown some signs in this series whereby There wasn't a Blackhawk out there that could really stop him when he wanted to go. And as you can see it from another angle, Messier just puts that puck between Murray Bannerman's legs.
Messier scores his 9th goal of the playoffs, 5th in this series. He has the longest scoring streak in the playoffs. Now 12 consecutive games in which he has scored at least a point. Anderson and Coffey get the assists at 13:26. And so far, this important first period going to the Oilers. Here's a steal by Fraser. Cross ice. The shot. Saved by Fuhr as he beats Tommy Lysiak. Point blank. 6 minutes to go in the first. 2-0. The Oilers lead. As Paul Coffey with the assist gives him 26 points in the playoffs. And he breaks the record that he had tied up with Dennis Potvin. From coast to coast in all 50 states, it's the Stanley Cup playoffs on USA.
There's a new game in town.
Here's for the Chicago Blackhawks, Bob Murray. After that, we'll have a Stanley Cup reflection from former Stanley Cup playoff great Bob Nevin. All that when the first period concludes here in Chicago. Back to Alan Garrett.
Blackhawks find themselves in a hole quickly, down by 2 with 5:50 left in the first period. Olczyk, and it is Yari Curry waiting on the right wing. The steal made by Troy Murray. Floats one in, a bouncer, and it is scooped up by Grant Fuhr.
Fuhr has come up with a couple of excellent saves tonight, and of course the biggest one of all was the one that just happened the last shift on on Lysiak, I should say. Lysiak had an excellent opportunity after being fed a nice pass by Kurt Fraser. Lysiak had lots of time to look where he wanted to put it, but Grant Fuhr just took it totally away from him.
And the crowd here at the stadium won't let the Blackhawks give up, pushing them, carrying the weary and wounded team, now down by the score of 2-0. Not cleared out. Doug Wilson, quick slap, the tip, and it hits the side of the net. Olczyk stays with it, and a diving Randy Gregg stops him. Curry behind the net. And Edmonton able to break out. Krushelnyski leaves the puck for Gretzky. Randy Gregg puts it in the corner, and Olczyk plays it around to Doug Wilson. Wilson back the other way, and Olczyk floats it to center.
Good play by Randy Gregg back in Edmonton's end zone. I think he saved a possible goal from the Chicago Blackhawks.
A disturbance now going on. It is Fraser for the Blackhawks and big Mike Krushelnyski for the Oilers. Let's go to Al Trautwig with an update from Philadelphia.
Well, Al, it's interesting. While the Oilers can eliminate here, they are watching the Flyers up on the scoreboard who can eliminate the Nordiques at the Spectrum in Philadelphia. Now, the Flyers are on a power play. Keep your eye on the left point. Doug Crossman, number 3 for the Philadelphia Flyers, who has now moved into the slot, shoots low, shoots left, and beats Mario Gosselin. And the Philadelphia Flyers now late in the second period lead the Quebec Nordiques by a 3-0 score. Back to you.
And here the Oilers lead the Chicago Blackhawks by a 2-0 score. 5 minutes left in period number 1. Larmer to Sutter. The wrist shot wide. Lumley back for the Oilers. Wraps it around as Pojar along with Coffey go to get it. Coffey, the clearing pass as 2 men charged on him. Bannerman stops it for Murray. Larmer deep in his own zone. 4.5 minutes to go in the first period. Larmer cross ice to Murray. Murray sends it in. And Coffey back the other way. Lumley skates to center. Finds a corner. Larmer misses. Lumley right on the scene. And now Jerome Dupont. Leap pass to Savard. This is Murray. Savard is completely wrapped up.
Billy Carroll has done an excellent job when he has been out there tonight against Dennis Savard, and that's a matchup that Glenn Sather is trying to get, even though he does not have last line change.
Savard has 10 points in the last 3 games. O'Callaghan finds the puck. McClellan driving for it. McClellan still with the puck. right in front, and it slides wide. Lindstrom behind the net, and Laziak takes it away. Checking line for the Oilers, doing a good job keeping it in the Chicago zone. Low fires, kicked out by Bannerman. Laziak beelines for the puck and has it. Caroms it around the boards for Sutter. 3 minutes, 18 seconds left in the first period. Al Albert along with Gary Green and Al Troutwig bringing you Stanley Cup playoff action. And here comes Chicago. Ken Yaremchuk, who can fly. And he is a whirling dervish right in front, cleared by Lowe. Hunter behind the net races with Ludzik. There is Yaremchuk. Put on the ice as Chicago needs a spark, trailing by 2. DuPont plays it back, and Murray being chased by Messier, who has given the Oilers a 2-0 lead. Picked up by Yaremchuk. Onto the stick of Troy Murray. Feeds it ahead. And it is gobbled up by Fuhr. We are in the Chicago Stadium with 2.5 minutes to go in the first period. Oilers lead it 2-0. And now we'll face another Oiler power play.
Well, meanwhile, when Glenn Anderson and Mark Messier are out there, you have to be extremely careful as how you handle that puck in your own end zone. Both of them great agility, great speed. They can really strip you of the puck pretty fast. But it is Glenn Anderson that is going to the penalty box right now, along with a Chicago Blackhawk player, Jerome DuPont. And so Anderson and DuPont going to the penalty box. Referee Brian Lewis signaling them off the ice pretty fast for their actions back around Bannerman.
So it is not a power play for the Oilers. But you know, Doug Wilson was saying when you have a dual penalty against Edmonton and you're skating 4-on-4 or 3-on-3, it gives them so much more ice, it's almost as if they do have a power play.
Well, they are such a tremendous team. One-on-one, there's not any better team in the NHL in one-on-one situations than the Edmonton Oilers. And, of course, that's because of their abilities puck handling-wise, but especially their skill and speed. Watch, we will see as Bannerman goes down, makes some saves. Here comes the cross-check. That was by DuPont on Anderson. Anderson retaliated with a high stick. So DuPont for cross-checking, Anderson for high-sticking, 17:56.
2 minutes to go in the first period. And it is Savard on the ice for the Blackhawks, Gretzky for the Oilers. So the two spectacular offensive players now with more ice will be dueling one another. Larmer tied up, and Huddy picks up the puck, or rather Randy Gregg, along with Don Jackson on defense. Gregg hits the blue line. Back it goes to Gretzky. Fakes the shot. Finds his man. Curry is bumped by Troy Murray. A 2-on-1 for Chicago. Murray along with Larmer. Murray cuts in. Wrist shot. Club save Fuhr. And he squeezes it tight.
Fuhr held on to that puck even though nobody was around him. And referee Brian Lewis blew the whistle very quickly. Glenn Sather was doing an interview on the ice before tonight's game, and he's a very brave man for doing so. There were only about 500 standing room people who had come into the building early to get a good position. But boy, it sounded like there were 10,000 of them here in Chicago Stadium when Sather walked on the ice to cooperate with a local television crew here from Chicago. Boy, he sure got booed.
I just saw Sather there. There was the famous smirk that the Blackhawks were talking about that irritate them so much. And Sather says when he was playing, he got hit by a puck in his upper lip. And the stitches that he has taken there and the resulting scar make it look as if he is smirking.
I think if I had Wayne Gretzky on my team, I'd have a perpetual smirk on my face.
But if you buy that one, we've got some land in the prairies in Edmonton to sell you. Secord number 20. Hawks want to get one back. Secord misses on the wraparound. A minute to go in the first period. 50 seconds on the dual penalties. It goes all the way down and on goal, so it saves the Oilers the icing. And now Coffey, back ice, is tangled up with Troy Murray. Play continues. Secord. Back it goes to Murray. the third-year man out of North Dakota. And do you think his stock has risen? Troy Murray rounds the net with Curry on him. Curry takes it away. Across to Gretzky, who wheels, and his shot goes wide. 18 seconds left. Bob Murray deep in his own zone. Leap pass to Secord. 2 men back. Secord sends it in and chases after it. Puts on the moves to Doug Wilson. 5 seconds. Lysiak in front, all alone. Hits the side of the net as the siren goes off. Fuhr may have gotten a piece of that as the Chicago Blackhawks were playing beat the clock.
Now Lysiak could have well have tied this game up in the first period himself. Let's take a look at that last play by Lysiak. He held on to it, lots of time. Just could not get that puck up and over Fuhr and into the net. Instead, it hits the post. Lysiak was stoned.
The shots on goal in the first period for the Chicago Blackhawks, 11 for the Edmonton Oilers, 9. Coming up, Blackhawk defenseman Bob Murray will join Al Chadwick. The 10-year veteran has been the Rock of Gibraltar on the Chicago defense. The score after 1 period of play here at the Chicago Stadium. The Edmonton Oilers 2 and the Chicago Blackhawks nothing. Years ago, Toronto in 18 years, Detroit in 30 years, and the Rangers not since 1940, 45 years ago. And now it's the Blackhawks who hold the banner for the original 6, the only one still remaining in the Final 4. Bannerman winds it around the boards. 2-0, the Oilers lead as we begin period number 2. Wilson does not allow his man to get free, and we have the quick whistle and a face-off in the Chicago end. The Blackhawks outshot the Oilers 11-9 in that first period.
Well, as you look at number 4, Kevin Lowe, usually in a series you talk about Kevin Lowe a fair amount because of his fine defensive play, his great shot blocking ability, but in this series we haven't mentioned Kevin Lowe too much. And that stands to reason considering that there have been 12 goals a game practically scored. So Kevin Lowe, even though he has played reasonably well, has not had the great heroics back in the defense.
Fogelin, the wrist shot, and Bannerman never saw it, but Fogelin got the shot up too high. O'Callahan, number 5, winds away from his man. Now plays it back to Wilson, who returns to O'Callahan. Kept in by Lumley. Here is Savard racing for the puck. Callahan keeps it in. The tip goes wide. The Blackhawks will storm out here in the beginning of the second period to try to get one back. Darryl Sutter. The slot to Larmer. Wilson with his head up. Larmer the tip. Larmer knocked to the ice. And it is cleared now by Pozar. The Blackhawks who nearly scored with a second left in the first period. And how that save by Grant Fuhr turns around the complexion of this one.
In the first minute and a half, Doug Wilson and the rest of his Chicago Blackhawks out on the ice have really kept the pressure on the Edmonton Oilers. And you heard Bob Murray compliment Doug Wilson by saying that he just got to marvel at the man who has played so well over the course of tonight's game so far, and also in game number 5 in Edmonton, where you just knew that he was hurting with every single stride he took out there, but he is still playing.
DuPont chases back. The next goal in this game could be the most important goal in this season for the Blackhawks. Lysiak with Secord a step in front, offside.
Lysiak's got to be a little bit frustrated right now, but yet confident at least the fact that he is getting the opportunities in tonight's game. He had 2 excellent ones in the first period of play, but Grant Fuhr took them both away from him. Tom Lysiak's hoping at least he gets those same number of opportunities in this second period and can maybe do a little bit different job on Grant Fuhr. Grant Fuhr just coming up with really key saves. You can't win without great goaltending.
Remember last year in the finals against the Islanders, first game of the Nassau Coliseum, Grant Fuhr with what they say ranks as one of the most spectacular goaltending performances in the playoffs when he beat the Islanders 1-0. Anderson Peterson, a bullet, and Bannerman takes it off the stick low.
Boy, did he ever smack that puck.
2-0 in favor of the Oilers. Olczyk tries to steal it from Coffey. And now Messier winding it up, but stopped by Olczyk. Right in front, and the shot is wide as Lysiak up-centered himself. He knew he had another good opportunity right in front. You're watching the Stanley Cup playoffs only on USA.
All the players kind of hovered around. Let's take a look at, first of all, Messier, who was trying to get out of his own end zone with possession of the puck, got smacked along the boards and held on to Olczyk's stick. And I think that resulted in some of the confrontation after the stoppage in play. But remember how the stoppage of play occurred. Tom Lysiak, as Al had mentioned, had another opportunity to score and just could not put that puck by Grant Fuhrer.
The line of Murray and Olczyk and Fraser out there. This is the clutch line for the Blackhawks. During the season, they had 12 game-winning goals as opposed to 9 by the Savard line. So this is defensive line, but they also come up with the big goals. No bigger goal for the Blackhawks than the next one. And if Edmonton gets it, that makes it a 3-0 game instead of 2-1. Krushelnyski on top of O'Callaghan, and it is frozen right there. So the Oilers get the puck out of their zone and bring the faceoff into the Blackhawk end.
Well, you look at this line with Fraser, Troy Murray, and Olczyk, and yes, they are a defensive line. And as Al just finished mentioning, they have come up with some pretty big goals as well. I think there is a good reason for that. Just weigh the character in those three hockey players, and you can pretty well understand then why they have the capabilities of putting the puck in the net. Not by a lot of great abilities offensively, but by sheer determination and their grinding style.
Fraser playing with bruised ribs. Early in the season, he had his cheekbone fractured, taking a stick across the face from Islander goaltender Billy Smith. Coffey in front of his own goal. There is Fraser bumping him. Olczyk right on the play. And Gary Curry starts out for the Oilers with Huddy and with Gretzky. Curry gets around. He shoots. Saved by Bannerman. Curry looking for his second goal tonight.
Boy, that groin is really hurting Doug Wilson. He could not move over to take the body out on Jari Curry, and as a result, Curry had a good opportunity to score.
Here's Troy Murray over the line, pulls the trigger, and Fuhrer goes high to stop it. 3 minutes into the second period, 2-0 Oilers.
Well, at this time we will remind you that this game is authorized under television rights granted by the National Hockey Leagues, intended solely for the private non-commercial use of our audience. Any publication, reproduction, retransmission, or other use of the pictures, descriptions, and accounts of this game without the express written consent of the National Hockey League is strictly prohibited.
We're talking about the bad blood bubbling over the course of the last couple of games. Last two games, there have been 252 minutes and penalties dished out. A little more sedate here in game number 6. Lysiak faces off against Messier. And Lowe drops it in the corner to Napier. Napier hustling it out for Edmonton. Comes to the red line. Rick Patterson for Chicago. And Lysiak brings it ahead. Murray onto the stick of DuPont. Poke checked away by Lowe. And it is sent all the way into the Chicago zone. Murray swipes at it. And the two teams skate back the other way.
Al Secord has got to be one of the Blackhawks that is very much motivated by this hometown crowd. They are just absolutely so loud that at times you can barely hear yourself think, let alone for the players and Al Secord to be able to hear their line mates yell for the puck, for the defense yelling for the puck. It's almost impossible, I would think, at ice level to hear anything. Al Secord has played much better in playoffs than he did during the course of the regular season. Secord had, again, a season whereby he had some nagging injuries and just unable to get back up to the great performances he had a couple of years ago.
Here in Chicago Stadium, players could hardly hear one another on the bench. They say when they play in Edmonton, they have to really watch what they say because everybody hears you. All right, Troy Murray is asked to leave. So Olczyk will step in against Gretzky. Olczyk. Curry waiting for the puck on the right wing. Cross ice to Coffey as he peels out for Edmonton. Krushelnyski is step offside. 16:25 left in the second period. Oilers by 2.
Mike Krushelnyski and Paul Coffey out there, as well as Wayne Gretzky, trying to get this third goal for the Edmonton Oilers. They are trying to attack that Chicago blue line. And again, as Al Albert had brought up at the start of the game, remember that the Chicago Stadium is 15 feet shorter than the Edmonton Northlands Coliseum. And so that may take a little bit away from the Edmonton Oilers. I can't tend to think that holds an awful lot of water, even though a lot of people do. I just think that for the Edmonton Oilers, they get to the net that much quicker when the ice is shorter. But they are a team that like to move that puck around, and of course that may have a bearing on the number of offsides we have seen here at Chicago Stadium in the 3 games we've covered so far.
And the crowd just will not let up. Getting louder and louder as their team searches for their first goal against the Oilers. Curry overskates. Messier sends it in. Doug Wilson lines it around the boards. And the steal by Edmonton. Gretzky walks right in. And here come the Blackhawks. A possible 3-on-1. Coffey now comes back into the picture. Larmer was waiting in front, and Coffey breaks that one up. Gretzky on the boards. Goes cross ice for streaking Curry. And Dupont sends it the other way. A 2-line pass against the Blackhawks. The score, Edmonton 2, Chicago nothing. And we will return right after these words to the Chicago Stadium. 5 minutes to go in the second period. 2-0. The Oilers are leading it. Bob Murray has some room. And now it is Hunter dashing after him. Plays it off the boards. Messier waits at the blue line. And a delay offside is called against Edmonton.
Well, as you look at Mark Messier, I want to go back to something we talked about in that first period just to clarify the situation. I had said that the odds weren't really for the Edmonton Oilers if they had to go back for game number 7. Of course, it doesn't make sense. The odds are totally for the Oilers, but the point I was trying to get across is that you had mentioned the rolling of the dice in any game 7. The Chicago Blackhawks have been badly embarrassed twice when they have played in Edmonton in this series. Once was a 7-3 score, but they still got beaten fairly badly. If you look at them going back for a game number 7, maybe that whole pride factor may just all of a sudden swallow them up, and I would think that there's a logical chance that sooner or later you've got to win one game at least in Edmonton over the course of a few years, and that may just be the case. But right now it doesn't look good for the Chicago Blackhawks getting that 7th game.
Well, right now the Oilers feel the same way about the 2 games in Chicago, and so they've come out here and lead 2-0. The Blackhawks have won 1 game in Edmonton in 15 tries all time. And we'll have a face-off now as the puck frozen along the boards. 2-0 Oilers, 14:49 remaining.
Well, the Blackhawks, who I'd mentioned in the first period, had dressed 7 defensemen in tonight's game. We have not, I believe we have not anyway, seen Ben Wilson out on the ice. Maybe once for a very short shift in that first period, but his groin must really be bad. And as mentioned, he could barely even walk to the Chicago Stadium this morning and tonight for the game. So they're obviously are only going to utilize him if it really becomes necessary. But they do have 7 defensemen dressed in tonight's game.
And off the face-off, there is another offside. The Oilers this year, record of 49 wins, 20 losses, and 11 ties, with Grant Fuhr, an all-star goaltender, along with Andy Moog. Grant Fuhr has started now 25 straight games for the Oilers. Moog was injured early in March, hurt his knees, and it has been all Fuhr since then. Krushelnyski plays it into the corner. And O'Callaghan starts out for Chicago. Onto the stick of Fraser with Troy Murray and Olczyk. Olczyk catches up right in front as Fraser was bodied and unable to get the shot off.
And Grant Fuhr wastes no time with his team up 2-0. He's not going to let that puck hover out in front of him. He's going to jump on it. Ed Olczyk just missed that pass, but he goes back right out in front of the net with it, hoping that one of his teammates might find that puck. Curt Fraser got a bit of a stick on it. Number 8, Curt Fraser, you could see coming in from that left wing position, but not enough to do any damage. And then Fuhr jumps on top of that puck and creates a face-off just to his right.
This has been the big line for Chicago here tonight. The Savard line with Larmer and Sutter has been invisible. Huddy. And now it is Coffey revving it up for the Oilers. And he smacks it in. Bob Murray back the other way. Intercepted by Gretzky. Right in the slot. Curry pulls the trigger. Blocked by Bannerman. For our local systems, we'll pause now. It's the Stanley Cup playoff.
To get at Coffey, and of course, Troy Murray and Jari Kurri had been wrapped up for quite a while. Referee Brian Lewis trying to get some order here. A couple of rubber chickens out in the ice.
What Troy Murray was doing with Kurri, Gary, Kurri wanted to get away, but Troy Murray grabbed his sweater and really irritated Kurri. Kurri wanted out. Didn't want to stay in the pack, and Murray just continued to hold on.
Well, it wouldn't really be an odd situation for the Chicago Blackhawks or the Edmonton Oilers. The Blackhawks cannot afford to be without Troy Murray out in the ice the way that he has played, and of course the Edmonton Oilers can ill afford to have Jari Kurri sitting in the penalty box for any length of time. So really, those two players going off the ice together would really be senseless.
Well, there are penalties being assessed, and the Blackhawks did not make out well. Sather's team will have a power play as Fraser gets 4 minutes for roughing. A 2 and a 2, and Kusheliski gets 2 minutes for roughing at 5:50. So in 2 minutes, the Oilers will have a power play. Right now, they'll skate 4-on-4.
You got to think that the players are going to have a rather large headache with his noise factor down in the ice after tonight's game is over. Boy, I have heard this building loud before, but not for such a long period of time.
It is sustained. The decibel level record of the NHL playoffs shattered here tonight in game number 6. The crowd trying to get their Blackhawks back. They have been shut out by Grant Fuhr and the Oilers and trailed 2-0 on their home ice. Al Secord takes the long shot. What a bullet as it goes over the head of Grant Fuhr, who bailed out on that one. Anderson gets it back to John Jackson. Jackson, ahead it goes. And Randy Gregg shoots it in. O'Callaghan trying to thread it through to Secord. Secord sandwiched. And Messier deep in his own corner rolls it in front with some speed now. It is Anderson. Anderson tries to split through.
Glenn Anderson, when he's attacking that blue line, sometimes just pushes that puck ahead a little bit just in order to bait the Chicago defense and then tries to pull it back just as they're going for it.
Picking it up is Lysiak. He's had the best chances for Chicago tonight, but thwarted on both occasions. Murray leads to Savard. Larmer chases back for it, looking for Savard at all times. Now kicked away by Gretzky. Gretzky along with Coffey. And it's Chicago, a 2-on-1. Larmer to Savard. Back to Larmer, but it never got there as Huddy makes the block. Coffey along the boards with 12.5 minutes left in the second period. Here is Curry. And the save by Bannerman. Again, Curry working on the injured Doug Wilson. Curry staying all over his prey. Wilson runs into his own man. Curry picks up the puck with Gretzky heading to the net. What a tip when it goes wide. Gretzky with his back to goaltender Murray Bannerman. Savard flying the other way. His back pass to Murray broken up. And it's Gretzky with an injured Wilson. Gretzky fanning out with Krushelnyski. Now he goes in. Krushelnyski. And he shoots it up off the stick of Bannerman and into the crowd.
Perfect play set up by Gretzky. Krushelnyski just could not find that upper corner. He went high with it all right. About 4 feet higher than the top of the net. A lot of drop passes being given in this series. And of course, the Edmonton Oilers like doing a lot of drop passing along the blue line, but the Chicago Blackhawks have been burned on it a lot tonight. Meanwhile, Doug Wilson, I think, is having a very, very difficult time out there in this game. You see Bob Pulford trying to pull him back in. Let's watch. It's bad enough the Blackhawks have as many injuries as they've got, but this time Doug Wilson runs into his own defenseman. That was Bob Murray that he ran into. And of course, the Edmonton Oilers, pretty much injury-free, have really got the abilities to turn it on and go for some long spurts at times. Paul Coffey is the only Edmonton Oiler that is really suffering much out there injury-wise, and if he's suffering, then boy, a lot of players wish they could suffer so well.
Matter of fact, before game number 5, when Coffey had his record-setting 6-point night, remember he's been having problems with the bruised right instep. Before the game, he was hit on the left ankle in the warm-ups with a shot, and they thought he might not even play. That is calling responding to injury. We're talking about all the scoring by the Oilers as Pulford now comes out as his team is down a man with 1:50 on the penalty to Kurt Fraser.
I'm not quite sure why Pulford is signaling kind of to hold things up. He's pulling Jack O'Callahan off the ice, but I'm not sure whether or not he was questioning the time left on Fraser's penalty or what it was.
Well, Doug Wilson stays out there as the Oilers spread it out. It is wrapped around the boards. Wilson finds the hole and wraps it all the way down. Messier and Anderson up front along with Napier. And now it is the Oilers winding it out. Anderson goes outside. Anderson behind the net. Right in front. Messier scores. His second of the night. 3-0 in favor of Edmonton. Bannerman completely out of the play.
I'll tell you, the speed of the Oilers and Messier and Anderson especially, they're just awesome at times. Watch Glenn Anderson. Makes a nice move at the blue line on Ludzik. Just protects that puck, goes all the way around behind, and then throws it back to Messier, who just throws it in the open side of the net. Murray Bannerman was going to follow Glenn Anderson around behind the net, fearful that Anderson would try to tuck it in from the short side. And instead, Bannerman ends up seeing the puck go in the net as he was making his move back to Messier.
So Messier gets his second of the night, his 10th playoff goal, which is more goals than he had last year when he won the Conn Smythe Trophy. And it's 3-0. A power play goal for the Oilers. Here's Messier again, looking in front, drops it back, and a penalty to Chicago as Lysiak pulling Anderson down to the ice. The Oilers up by 3, and now we'll have a power play. It's exclusive coverage of the Stanley Cup on USA.
For years, I have been trying to solve the mystery of the long...
Back here in Chicago, the Oilers with a power play. Let's go downstairs now to Al Troutwick with a Philadelphia update.
At the Spectrum in Philadelphia, Al, the Philadelphia Flyers still leading Quebec by a score of 3-0. Unrelenting pressure in the third period by the Flyers, even though no goals have been scored. Tocchet, Poulin, Crossman, the goal scorers for Philadelphia. About 8 minutes to go. Back to you.
The similarities, 3-0 in each game. And if the teams in the lead hold on, that means these series will end tonight.
Well, here Lysiak has a penalty for holding, so the Edmonton Oilers on the power play, and they are really revved up.
It is Coffey going back. Messi had that last goal from Anderson and Lowe at 8:32. And this is Curry weaving in. Krushelnyski in the corner with O'Callaghan. Gretzky bumped off the play by Troy Murray. As the crowd getting louder and louder as the Blackhawks fall further and further behind. The crowd really reaching back. Now we'll see if the Blackhawks can. But a tough assignment. They're down by 3 and have to kill a penalty. Anderson right in front. And it is frozen by Bannerman.
Well, these fans sure haven't given up here at Chicago Stadium, but I don't know, Al. Down 3-0 right now against the defending Stanley Cup champions, the Edmonton Oilers. I don't give the Chicago Blackhawks a lot of hope right now. I would at any other point in time if they were healthy, but their defense are just barely being able to be held together right now. Doug Wilson can all but skate out there. Ben Wilson hasn't been able to play. Bergevin has got the bad shoulder. It just goes on and on. The Blackhawks are really in some trouble here.
And with the defense bruised, the Blackhawks having problems getting the puck out of their own zone to even set up the offense. That's where the offense starts. And there's been no offense for Chicago. Gregg fires, and it hits a leg. Right in front. The shot by Napier goes wide. And Patterson revs it up now for Chicago. A 3-on-2. But puts the puck in the wrong place. 9:20 left in the second period. Messier scoring for the Oilers tonight. Messier splits the defense. Saved by Bannerman.
Mark Messier is putting on a real show for us tonight here, folks. He walked right between the Chicago blue line, and the Chicago defense looked pretty bad on that one. Bob Murray just got turned inside out. Mark Messier using one of his great moves, and let's take a look at it. Mark Messier just winding up from way back. Here he goes. There's the move. He went to go to Bob Murray's right. Instead, he pulls it in and then takes it right between Bob Murray and Doug Wilson. Let's take a look at that Messier goal when Anderson... Look at the Bannerman in this situation. Bannerman was watching to his right, watching for Anderson to come out. Anderson came out all right, but he didn't have the puck. It was on Messier's stick, and then it was put right behind Bannerman before he even had a chance.
Messier, who missed 25 games this season. Injuries, also was suspended for an incident for 10 games. Only scored 23 goals this year. And he now has 10 in the playoffs. We're dealing with a former 50-goal scorer there. Troy Murray at the red line. Goes cross ice to O'Callaghan. Murray can't keep it in.
Things haven't really gone well for the Blackhawks tonight. They've had 3-on-2 situations they've messed up. Their passing hasn't been on. Tom Lysiak's had 3 good chances to score. He hasn't been able to put it home. They've been offside on some scoring rushes. The puck isn't going the Blackhawks' way tonight, as it did in the 2 games here in games 3 and 4. And that might just be a sign.
Well, the Blackhawks would love to get a sign from this line. Savard, Larmer, and Sutter. Sutter, who has 12 goals in the playoffs, which ranks number 2 behind Yari Curry.
Well, there was an offside in the play, but Steve Larmer shot the puck anyway, and right now, Dennis Savard.
Well, he was taking exception to Billy Carroll, who put a bear hug on Savard.
Savard's pretty frustrated tonight by that coverage of Billy Carroll on him. Savard's got to forget about it. He's got to find ways to get away from Billy Carroll out there. Getting frustrated and taking penalties and sitting in the box isn't going to do the Blackhawks a bit of good.
For our local systems, we'll pause now. You're watching the Stanley Cup playoffs live only on USA. For the Edmonton Oilers, going to Dave Hunter, both for roughing at 11-10. Bob Pulford, who has turn things around here in Chicago. His team, since he took over in February, a record of 25-12-4. Since that time, Edmonton has a record of 21-13-5. So since Pulford has taken over, they have a better record than the Oilers. But right now, the Chicago Blackhawks facing elimination. 3-2 in favor of the Oilers. 3-0 in favor of the Oilers in this one. We're talking about all the scoring by Edmonton, leading scoring team in the playoffs. Number 2 is Chicago, not far behind. But they've been shut out for half this game. Here is Jerry Curry with Wilson back. There goes a glove flying. Wilson getting frustrated with Curry. Bangs at his stick. And now Wilson starts out. Troy Murray blasts through. O'Callaghan. Olczyk loses the puck. And here's Gretzky with Wilson back. Gretzky fires. And it's gloved by Bannerman. Trickles off and into the corner. And we'll have a face-off in the Chicago end.
Well, Bannerman really had to do the splits on that save. Wayne Gretzky deciding he was just going to shoot from a long ways out and see whether or not he could catch Bannerman napping. Well, he didn't catch Bannerman napping, but he didn't come far off from putting that puck in the net. Kevin Lowe with a smile on his face right there, and I think the Edmonton Oilers are pretty confident at this point in time. Let's watch Gretzky, and just over the blue line, he lets go with that shot. You can see Bannerman, he had to get that big glove out quickly.
And he had plenty of time, plenty of room to get out there. The veteran Kevin Lowe. In junior hockey, he was an offensive-minded defenseman. He has changed his style now, redefined his role with the offensive-minded Oilers. Enough offensive players on this team. Messier, number 11, will take the draw. And it is whistled down by Bob Hodges. The linesman is back at the blue line. He saw a couple of players sneak in. Eight minutes left in the second period. Messier tries to steal that draw. Secord. Back it goes. As the well looks to be dry for the Chicago Blackhawks after supreme efforts to get back in the series against Edmonton. A hand pass is called by Brian Lewis, so we'll come all the way back to the Edmonton zone.
Now Secord's been taking the body out there pretty good tonight along the boards. Whenever Paul Coffey has been on the ice, as he is right now, Secord and the rest of the Blackhawks have been very conscious of trying to keep Coffey to the boards. They do not want to give Coffey open ice area. They know how dangerous he can be. So in Chicago Stadium, that's worked pretty well in games 3 and 4 anyway, and they're hoping to do the same thing tonight on Coffey. So far, they've at least kept Coffey off the scoreboard in the goal department. He has got 1 assist on Mark Messier's first goal of tonight's game.
Want to keep him to the boards, sir. If he heads to the middle, try to crowd him. Don't give him room. Lysiak will face off for Chicago against Messier. Dupont goes back for it. 7.5 minutes left. Second period. Teams now skating 4-on-4. Lysiak. Leap pass to Secord. Poke checked away by Messier, who was all over the ice. Secord gives him a wrap. Near steal by Lysiak in front. And Anderson carries out for the Oilers. Crossing with Messier. Charlie Huddy onto the stick of Coffey. He has room now as Bergevin blocks that shot. Here's Yaremchuk wheeling out. Yaremchuk goes by Curry. Leap pass to Sutter. He fires off the skate of Fuhr. And the Oilers with Gretzky loses in front. But Huddy is there to save it for Edmonton. Curry, forecheck by Yaremchuk. Bergevin keeps it in at the point. And now it is Gretzky waiting for it with Wilson. Gretzky between the legs to Curry. Wrist shot, score! Curry Curry threads the needle, and it's 4-0 in favor of Edmonton.
You talk about a sharpshooter. Jari Kurri, well, he didn't score 71 goals this year because he doesn't have a good shot. He has an excellent shot, and he's going to show it to us here on this replay. Wayne Gretzky and Jari Kurri, who else? But when Jari Kurri gets possession of this puck, he just takes a look, got his head up from a sharp angle, picks the top glove hand corner from Murray Bannerman. And what an angle. Look at how far Jari Kurri actually was beneath that faceoff dot. And even still, he was able to find room upstairs, glove side on Murray Bannerman. Just a beautiful shot by Jari Kurri.
His second goal of the night. That is his 10th goal in this playoff series to set an NHL playoff record. 10 goals in a series. Snaps the tie. Fossey, Barber, and Leach had 9 playoff goals in one series. And now Curry is 1 goal away from his 4th hat trick in the playoffs, which would set another record. Gretzky and Hunter get the assists. The time of the goal, 13:28. So just when the Chicago Blackhawks were putting the pressure on, Curry comes back to score and makes it 4-0 with 6 minutes left in the second period.
Into every life a little rain must fall.
Remember the disputed goal, which may have cost Quebec the game, at least in their eyes it did. We'll have Kerry Fraser on at the end of the second period to discuss why he disallowed the goal. Back to Alan Gary.
Here's Messier, and he is blasted into the boards by Randy Boyd. And Boyd starts out for Chicago. Leap pass to Larmer. The steal is made by Lindstrom. Lindstrom headed off by Boyd. Gets around him, then is spun around. Blackhawks need something here before the end of the second period to give them some hope going into the third. Savard right in front, intercepted by Hunter. And Lindstrom carries out. Fogelin comes in, scores! Lee Fogelin, a rarity. He had 4 goals all season long. And Bannerman looking awful in the last 2.
Well, the Blackhawks had a chance at the opposite end, but then they messed it up, and that gave the Oilers an opportunity. A 3-on-2. Lee Fogelin moving up with the play, as he so often does, and he finds the room by Murray Bannerman. He just takes a long time here to look where he wanted to put it, and he found himself lots of room. Bannerman not looking all that sharp right now, and with a 5-0 score, well, it does not look good for the Chicago Blackhawks.
Fogelin with the goal. He had 4 goals all season long. He has 3 in the playoffs. Right in front, Bannerman. Again, sloppy. Right in front, Gretzky. Bannerman on top of that one. 5-0 in favor of the Oilers. As Troy Murray overskates. 4 minutes, 50 seconds left. Fogelin the goal from Lindstrom and Hunter at 14:41. And the Oilers, a team with a killer instinct. They have 5, but it's not enough for them. They've hit double figures twice in this series. And we'll have a face-off in the Edmonton zone. We hope you're enjoying the Stanley Cup playoffs right here on USA Sports. We'll be back in a moment.
Flyers advance to the Stanley Cup final. That game just concluded at the Spectrum moments ago. Back to Al Albert and Gary Green.
Well, Pelle Lindbergh gets a shutout. Grant Fuhr working on one here. 5-0 in favor of the Oilers. That, by the way, is Lindbergh's 3rd shutout in the playoffs, which is one shy of the record of 4 last set by Ken Dryden back in 1977. A disturbance here on the ice is Mark Messier taking his time before stepping into the face-off circle.
Well, once there was 21, now there is only 3, and maybe almost only 2.
Anderson takes it with one hand. He and Yaremchuk collide. Messier flying in, bodied by Lysiak. Yaremchuk. O'Callahan poke checked away by Messier. Rolls it in front, and Wilson gets it out to Lysiak. Leads to Yaremchuk. Yaremchuk steps around the check. Has Sutter, but can't hold on. Right in front, steered aside. Penalty coming up on Edmonton. It is Doug Wilson with O'Callahan. Chicago with the extra attacker. Wilson goes cross ice. Chicago is setting up for the shot, and they throw it away there. So the Blackhawks will have a power play, only their second one of the night. And the Edmonton Oilers making sure in this game, after being hit for 5 power play goals in Game 5, not to get into penalty trouble.
Now Paul Coffey, as he goes to the penalty box for his 2-minute minor for slashing. 16:19 was the time. The Blackhawks have got to try and get something going here, and they've got to maybe concentrate a little bit more on their passing and go for that net more rather than trying so many drop passes at the blue line, trying to get into perfect position. They've got to get more shots on Grant Fuhr right now. They hope to get any goals by him.
In game number 5 in Edmonton, Chicago led by the score of 4-3 in the second period in that game. Oilers scored 7 unanswered goals before Chicago scored the last goal. Now Edmonton has scored 5 more, so they have scored 12 of the last 13 goals in this series. Gretzky onto the stick of Carroll as another Blackhawk is hurt on that shot.
That was Dennis Savard that went to the bench, and he was hurt on that shot by Doug Wilson from the point. That's all the Blackhawks need.
3:20 left in the second period. Secord smothered. Fuhr helps his teammates out as he wraps it around the boards, and it is then slapped down. A minute and a half to go, and the penalty to Coffey. 5-0 Edmonton convincingly here in game number 6. The Flyers now waiting in the wings. Lysiak has room. Fires. Rebound as Larmer takes a swat at that. Bob Murray back to the blue line, and he can't keep it in. Randy Boyd ahead to Lysiak. Hits Bob Murray. Murray to Larmer. Returns to Murray, but the defenseman was going back to his point spot. Hunter leads the charge for Edmonton. Gretzky eludes the check from Larmer, who winds up smashing himself into the glass. 35 seconds to go on the power play for Chicago.
Well, if Gretzky and Curry didn't put on a great show in this building game 3 and 4, the fans are definitely getting their money's worth watching them here tonight.
Here's Gretzky, starting out to Curry, going for the hat trick against Bannerman. Scores!
What a shot again. And what a deke by Jari Kurri, and he has a new record, 4 hat tricks. Unbelievable. Let's watch him. Jari Kurri, he goes to his left and right upstairs. What a beautiful backhand shot that was. That was just an inch, if that, underneath the crossbar. Wayne Gretzky, though, setting that play up. The Oilers, when they're killing penalties, they are something else. Short-handed goal by Jari Kurri.
Back-to-back hat tricks for Curry. He had one in game 5. Gretzky gets the assist. 18:05 is the time, and it is 6-0. That was a short-handed goal.
Well, I want you to watch one more time. This backhand, look at the way that Curry got that puck on the blade of his stick and then just rang it right upstairs, high on Bannerman. Bannerman's going to wish he never saw the Edmonton Oilers.
Here's Yaremchuk and Lutzik, who had a clear breakaway, unable to hold on. Coffey zigzagging, now spins. Carroll has it on his stick. We have 1:30 left in this second period. Oilers with 4 goals in the second to open up a 6-goal lead. Yaremchuk, and it is slapped away. Lutzik, his shot on the screen, and it's wide. Patterson in front. Lutzik can't hold on to that one.
The Blackhawks just cannot hold a pass on their stick. Things are not bouncing well for them out there at all offensively.
And McClellan, who has not seen much ice time here tonight. Ahead to Lindstrom.
Let's give the Oilers credit, though. Back in their own end zone, they have really clogged up that middle ice area on Grant Fuhr, and so made things pretty easy for Fuhr and frustrating for the Blackhawks. But yet the Blackhawks have had their chances, just have not been able to put those passes on the stick and make anything click offensively.
Jackson ahead to Pozar and offside with 31 seconds left. You realize Yari Curry in the first two series was held to 6 goals. He has scored 11 in this series, 6 games against Chicago. And is Dennis Savard in pain or in tears?
Well, it could be both right now. Let's watch Doug Wilson. He winds up with that shot. This is where Savard gets it. You can see that he, I think, gets it in the chest, maybe the stomach, but a hard shot coming from the point by Doug Wilson for the Blackhawks, and that shot being received by Dennis Savard right in the line of fire, and Savard then limped off to the bench.
The Blackhawks falling one by one. Their defensive core just about depleted. And now their leading scorer, Dennis Savard, on the bench in pain.
Well, it almost looks like Savard got it right below, or right on his forearm, I should say, and not a lot of padding there for players, right above their glove and below their elbow pads. That tightens up on him. He's not going to be able to handle a stick at all.
17 seconds left. Edmonton just getting the puck out. Larmer. Poke checked away by Pozar. 2 seconds, 1. And there is the siren to end the second period of play. The shots on goal. The Edmonton Oilers with 11. And the Chicago Blackhawks with 7. So through 2 periods, the Oilers now with 20 shots on net, and the Blackhawks with 18. Coming up, joining Al Trautwig will be referee Kerry. Now you know the bad blood between these two teams that has developed, Gary. Do you think the Edmonton Oilers will come on the ice now and look to rub it in?
I don't think so, Al. If they rub it in anyway, it'll be through goals. I don't think through rough stuff, because they can ill afford to go into the Philadelphia series in the finals with any injuries, and they'll want to stay away from that, I would think.
Now, I meant as far as goals are concerned.
Well, I would have a tendency to think that the Edmonton Oilers might like to do that.
All right, here are the Oilers on the attack. Don Jackson fires. And Bannerman rolls it to Randy Boyd, who'll probably see quite a bit of ice time. Fresh legs, no injuries to Boyd. Bob Murray used to be booed here in Chicago. Long shot, and it's gloved by Fuhr.
I don't think the Edmonton Oilers think a lot about mercy, and that was the point you were getting at. They love to score. That's what they can do best, and that's what they are doing best tonight.
401 goals this season, most in the NHL. That's an average of 5 a game. They're doing better in the playoffs. Gretzky right in the slot. Krushelnyski kicked out by Bannerman. And it's swept away by Olczyk. And there he is, forecheck. Curry looking for his 4th of the night. Olczyk comes in, and Fraser along the boards gets it out to Olczyk. Doug Wilson still playing on the bad groin. Spinning. 3 Oilers on top of him. You watch the Oilers starting this 3rd period, you would think it is a tied hockey game. To their credit, here is Troy Murray trying to break through, and slapped away by Fuhr. Fuhr going for the shutout. He had 1 all season. Bergevin, Curry can't get to it. And it is Fraser playing it ahead. Olczyk tied up by Fogelin. Pozar comes back for it. Curry now with 17 goals in the playoffs, which is 2 shy of the all-time playoff record of 19 set by Reggie Leach. We'll be back for more. 2 minutes.
For slashing 2 minutes was the time that penalty occurred in the third period. I just hope things can stay in hand here. You can see Sather pointing to possibly the guilty fan. I know the fans were really giving Sather a rough time coming into this building tonight.
Well, the fans have gone from noisy to rowdy. I could see Glenn Sather just wanting to pull his team from the ice, a la the Russian tactics. And right now, they're claiming they're in jeopardy with the crowd pelting them from above.
Well, the fans are throwing things down on the bench, and that's really terrible because there may be bad blood between the players, and that, of course, is going to sift into the fans here at Chicago. But when you start throwing things at players, that really becomes very, very senseless. You start throwing things out on the ice that can danger the lives and careers of these players. It doesn't make much sense. There you see Troy Murray in the penalty box. Again, slashing was the penalty, and we will get a look at that. He took Pozar out along the boards and then came back, gave him a two-hand across the back, and that earned him the right to go and sit in the penalty box for the next couple of minutes. Well, in case you missed it at home, there you get a chance to see Troy Murray doing a little bit of wood chopping there.
And Murray showing his frustration. You remember in game number 3 when he shut out Gretzky, it was Gretzky who took a frustrating tripping penalty on Murray. And now it is Murray sitting in the box. So the Oilers with a 6-0 lead now on the power play. 2 minutes into the third period. Messier looking for a hat trick. Winds up Napier, but he was just a step offside. The Oilers, one thing here on the power play, Gary, even though they have the 6-point lead, really want to go to work on it because they've got to get the power play rolling going into Philadelphia, and it has been dismal in this series against Chicago.
Well, that's a good point. There's a lot of things that the Edmonton Oilers know they're going to have to improve upon before they play the Philadelphia Flyers, if in fact that is the matchup for the finals. I think one thing that I may have misjudged the Oilers on in this third period is the fact that maybe they won't try to score as much and instead trying to revert to playing some good disciplined defensive hockey and protect the lead, knowing full well that they're going to have to do that against the Philadelphia Flyers to be successful.
The Philadelphia Flyers, a team that the Oilers did not beat during the regular season in 3 tries.
Well, that's a very good point. The fact that 3 times they played them, 3 times they failed. And so, as a result, the Edmonton Oilers will be looking ahead to what tactics they may have to use. Well, I speak about some good defensive play on their part. They're still going to have to do what they do best, and that is skate, pass the puck, and score goals.
Brian Lewis, the veteran referee, and he understands the way this series has gone, the way this game has gone, and he doesn't want this third period to get out of hand. So he may be quick with the whistle here in the third. 1:20 remaining in the penalty to Troy Murray. Puchelniski starting out. Back to Gretzky, who has 3 assists tonight. Curry walks in. Rebound Gretzky, and he shoots that one high and wide. Randy Gregg pulls it back. Right in front, the tip by Gretzky. Rebound Curry. He sails that one over the crossbar. And Ludzik, the long pass, short-handed, looking for Rick Patterson, who has been one of the unsung heroes for the Blackhawks in this series. 49 seconds left in the power play. Bannerman using the stick. Bannerman has 2 assists in this series. Really one of the better stick men in the NHL in goal. Fogelin. And it's Savard. So he comes back from the shot he took by his teammate Doug Wilson in that second period. This is Curry winding up. And O'Callaghan slaps it down. He had Olchuk behind the defense. Fuhrer, the long pass to Fogelin. Puchelniski takes the look right in front. Cleared by Olchuk. Olchuk shoots it ahead. And back for the Oilers is Charlie Huddy. Gretzky takes it beautifully off the skate. Drops it between the legs to Curry. Sets up Coffey. Kick save made by Bannerman. So the Edmonton Oilers continue to come wave after wave.
That's not a bad line for Edmonton, is it? Yari Curry, Wayne Gretzky, and Paul Coffey.
It's the place to stay for live Stanley Cup coverage. USA Sports brings you the Stanley Cup. the score at 6-0. The penalty to Troy Murray is over. The team's at equal strength. 15:43 left in the third. Coffey drills it, but it goes wide. And Randy Boyd, Sutter, as the Blackhawks now trying to slip behind the Oiler defense. McClellan, Lumley plays it across to Huddy. He shoots. The hard shot stopped by Bannerman. Bannerman may be facing some 3-on-2s and 2-on-1s as the Blackhawks will be gambling. They have nothing to lose. And it may leave Bannerman in the defense vulnerable. Yaremchuk speeding in and Pure wrapping it off the glass. And we'll have a face-off now in the Edmonton end. And as soon as there's a whistle and the players start mulling together, the linesmen quickly get in there.
Well, maybe Murray Bannerman in this third period of play will utilize that stick a little bit more, in fact, and start feeding that puck up to his defenseman who will take part in the offensive rush. There's no use hanging back and thinking defense now. When you're down 6 goals with 15 minutes to go in the third period, gamble all you possibly want out there. I don't think they're going to get their egos dented anyway. They've had a lot of goals scored on them in this series. They've had 11 in game number 1. They've had 10 in game number 5, so they might as well go for it. Wide open fire wagon hockey.
Well, in the beginning, I said it would take 8 goals to win, particularly for Chicago. And right now they trail 6-0. Bannerman has a goal average of 6.43 in this series against the Oilers. In the slot, the shot saved by Fuhr. As Larmer rifled that one right on net.
Well, right off the faceoff, Larmer let it go. I don't think you're going to be disappointed, Al. I think you're going to see 8 goals happen in this game tonight. Things are just going to open up in this 15 minutes remaining, and that's bound to create some goals unless we have some spectacular goaltending. We've had that tonight at times from Grant Fuhr. He hasn't had to have a lot of work tonight right off this faceoff, though. He has one, and that's by number 28, Steve Larmer. He just rifles that puck. Good wrist shot. Fuhr makes the save and hangs on for the faceoff.
You say we'll have 8 goals here tonight. Which team do you think will score the 8th? Larmer is bodied by Gregg. Savard skates in. And Edmonton skates out. Led by Lindstrom, who goes outside on Doug Wilson. Lindstrom takes a look. Jackson puts it in front, the bouncer, and Bannerman has problems with that one. O'Callaghan. The backhand pass ahead to Savard. Savard has completely been smothered here tonight by the Oilers. 6 minutes into the third period of play. It is Randy Gregg. Taken by Olczyk. Olczyk muscles through. And it is gloved by Fuhr off net. That does not go as a save, but Fuhr freezes the puck. For our local systems, we'll pause now. You're watching the Stanley Cup playoffs on USA. Bergevin rounds the net. Curry takes it away. As Curry out on the ice, he is looking for number 4 here tonight. And he's intent on getting it. Olczyk behind the back to Troy Murray. Murray slaps it in front for Fraser. As Gretzky looking for Curry. And you certainly get the idea that the Oilers are looking for Curry.
Boy, he is really flying out there tonight as well. And Gretzky even just hanging back a little bit.
Bob Murray slaps it wide.
Gretzky's just looking to get possession of that puck and feed Curry as much as he possibly can. And, of course, Wayne Gretzky, not a selfish hockey player by any stretch of the imagination.
Here's Coffey winding it up. Back to Gretzky. Returns to Coffey. And it's cleared by Lutzig. 13 minutes left. Curry digging at it with Secord. Gretzky sends it in. Bob Murray off the boards. And it is Lutzig flying with Secord. Secord in front. Scores!
Well, it may be a long ways from 6. But the fans here at Chicago Stadium are just standing on their feet and cheering as Al Secord finally puts the Blackhawks on the board. Nice pass right here. Watch, it goes right on the stick of Al Secord. Grant Fuhr could not move back in time. He just left a lot of room there below his glove, above his glove, but Secord elected to go below the glove. Unfortunately, now we're getting a lot of debris thrown on the ice by these fans here.
Well, the Blackhawks and their fans figure you got to start somewhere. They go into the third period before they score. The longest stint this year in the playoffs for the Blackhawks. As you see, it's the hustle of Secord to collect that pass. And there goes the shutout for Grant Fuhr.
You know, sometimes fans really need a lesson in helping out their team. The Blackhawks score, so they've got a little bit of momentum going. What do the fans do here at Chicago Stadium? They just throw all the debris on the ice, take away the momentum for both teams.
Edmonton sank together. And after that goal, the fans with all debris stopping the momentum. But here comes Chicago. And Anderson wheeling out. And wheeling back.
Watch this guy. He can really skate. He is a real treat to watch. Just lots of hustle and desire out there. Wow, he just goes crashing into the boards after being dumped.
And still goes after the puck.
And still comes up with it.
And now it is McClellan along with Bergevin. Those two have gone at it before in this series.
And number 29, Steve Ludzik, is right in there himself. I think linesman Bob Hodges there did a good job of getting the players separated quickly in order to keep the frustration level by both teams down. Let's take a look at Glenn Anderson, number 9 for the Oilers, getting dumped by Bergevin, and I guess that's why the commotion started around Bergevin, because he was the man that was guilty of pulling Anderson down to the ice, and that could have been dangerous for Anderson, who went sprawling into the boards, but he just jumped right up again as though nothing ever happened and ended up with possession of the puck.
Anderson has 13 points in the 6 games against the Chicago Blackhawks. 2 assists here tonight. Paul Coffey on the bench along with Lee Fogelin. 2 defensemen, Mr. Offense and Mr. Defense. We have 12 minutes left in the third period. 6-1 Edmonton.
An awful lot of debris still on the ice, just little pieces that are dotted along the ice surface, and those little pieces really can cause hazard to players.
Bob Murray for Chicago, and he floats a souvenir into the Chicago stands.
Well, a little bit of hope here, at least, for the Chicago Blackhawks when they're finally able to put that puck by Grant Fuhr, something they hadn't been able to do up to that point in time. But the game has been slowed down a little bit here, and that doesn't help the Blackhawks.
Blackhawks have not been shut out at home all season. Here is Messi right in front. Napier misses. Messier with Anderson. Poked away by Lysiak. Lysiak streaking out. Can't get it through the long legs of Gregg. The 6'4" Randy Gregg off the boards. And Randy Boyd, the former Pittsburgh Penguin, called up here for the playoffs for Chicago with all the injuries to the defense. And we have a penalty coming up. A penalty against the Edmonton Oilers. Still 11 minutes and 21 seconds to go. Chicago has finally got one behind Fuhr. And now they'll have a power play, although they still have a 5-goal mountain to climb.
Well, you can see Glenn Sather there looking behind the bench, just a little bit concerned of the fans here in Chicago Stadium right now. Glenn Anderson gets a tripping penalty, and you will see why. He dumped the Chicago player Bob Murray, I believe it was, and as a result, Anderson goes to the penalty box. 8:39 is the time, and so the Blackhawks on the power play.
Doug Wilson setting it up behind the net to Larmer. He has Bob Murray waiting at the point. Back to Larmer it goes. The Hawks spreading it out. Secord with Savard. Shoots. Great save by Fuhr. Came out of nowhere to slam the door shut on Dennis Savard.
I thought for sure that puck was destined to go in. Just a tremendous save by Grant Fuhr. He moved from his left to his right, took that puck right away from Dennis Savard. Great play by the Blackhawks, though. They set it up beautifully. Let's watch how well they did set that puck up. Here comes the pass. Savard just shoots it on his forehand side, but what a move by Fuhr.
No question, the best save of the night has to rank up with the best saves of the series. Not as crucial as some others, but individually certainly stands out. Savard with 1:30 to go in the power play for Chicago. Larmer turned around as the puck is cleared.
Remember, this Chicago team in Edmonton the other night, they may have lost 10-5, but they scored 5 power play goals out of 9 opportunities on the power play.
Secord revving it up, but he is rejected. 10.5 minutes left. Wilson leads in Larmer, trying to get it back. Larmer with low on him. Savard had nobody at the point, so he goes back there. Savard has a screen. O'Callaghan. Wilson to Savard. Across, the shot by Larmer, but he fans. Secord winding out, carries in front, and misses on the shot.
Well, Secord fanned on the shot, and number 2, Lee Fogling, comes up with the puck. It ended up underneath of him, and he was just going to make sure that that puck stayed exactly there. The Hawks had some good opportunities and really set the play up well.
37 seconds left on the power play. Blackhawks score now, and they have half of this period. They've scored 4 goals in 10 minutes before. That's if they score now. 10 minutes to go. Say they're not thinking about the Philadelphia Flyers just yet.
No, that's because you never say never, and that's exactly how the Blackhawks feel at this point.
Randy Boyd off the boards for Lysiak. Boyd poking at it and keeps it in. Big Don Jackson at 6'3" and 210 shoots it out. .15 seconds left in the power play. And Boyd has to regroup. Returns to Murray. Troy Murray curls back into his own zone. And Boyd finds the corner. Darryl Sutter is chasing after it. Sutter with 12 playoff goals, ranking second to Yari Curry. Gretzky goes cross ice. As the penalty is over, now 9 minutes, 10 seconds left in the third period. Lysiak leads for Sutter, pulls the trigger wide. Charlie Hunting in traffic, able to squeeze away from it. It is Gretzky who takes the pass, flips it ahead for Anderson. And Bergevin for Chicago rounds the net and comes out. Collides with Anderson as they both go flying to the ice. Savard rolls it in front. Secord trying to muscle for the shot. Kept in by DuPont. And he hits Anderson. Secord. And it's knocked away. 8.5 minutes left. Here's Gretzky. 3-on-2, but he is stood up at the blue line by DuPont. Savard gets around Gretzky. Larmer hits in. Fuhr comes out as Larmer upended by the goaltender, Grant Fuhr. And then Fuhr gets some help. For our local systems, we'll pause now. It's the Stanley Cup playoffs on USA.
And Anderson can hand out some pretty good body checks as well. He wasn't the least bit afraid of walking into number 2, Mark Bergevin, and I think Bergevin got the worst of that one.
In his last 9 games, Anderson with 7 goals and 13 assists, 20 points. O'Callaghan leads to Fraser. And Kevin Lowe off the boards. Notice Paul Coffey not seeing too much ice time here in the third. resting his weary feet. He has the bruised instep on the right foot. Before Game 5 in the warm-ups, took a slap shot off his left ankle. The steal by Murray, walks in, and that goes off the skate of Greg. Fuhr rejects that one. Troy Murray the shot. 7 minutes, 10 seconds remain in the third period. And Bannerman guides that one into the corner. McClellan in on Boyd. And Troy Murray passes it out. Too long for Olchuk as Chicago makes a change. And their season now winding down. McClellan. The backhand is wide. Krushelnyski. He bumps with Bergevin. Krushelnyski showing his strength. Still able to pass it out. And it's Yaremchuk. The moves. The shot. Score! And it's 6-2.
You got to like what you're seeing here. At least this Blackhawk team being down 6-0 going into the third period. They weren't about to quit. And they have made life a little bit tough in this third period for the Edmonton Oilers. Watch Yaremchuk. He just worked his way into a good scoring position, then let it go. Fuhr went down. Well, Yaremchuk found some room. Yaremchuk, a little bit of an individualist here, but nevertheless, he took that puck off his skate and found some room between Grant Fuhr's legs and has given the Blackhawks their second goal of the evening. And the fans, unfortunately, littering the ice once again. When the Blackhawks could keep on with the momentum, now the Oilers get a chance to kind of get things back together again.
Intercepted by Anderson. He goes
together again.
Intercepted by Anderson. He goes in. Anderson stays with it. Attached to that puck. Blackhawks bust out. 4-on-2. Troy Murray. Puck from behind by Napier, and he does the job. Napier gets it out. McClellan on the right wing. Drops it to Anderson. Troy Murray bounces with Napier. And wraps it around for a waiting left wing, Darryl Sutter. Troy Murray. Cross-links to Wilson. He fires, and Fuhr way out of the net. Right in front, blocked by Fuhr, diving 15 feet in front of his goal. Wilson shoots just wide. The Blackhawks putting on the pressure. 2-on-1 now for the Oilers. It is Anderson who fires and scores. Bannerman, unlike Fuhr, unable to scramble back.
Well, after the Blackhawks had made such a valiant effort trying to put that puck by Grant Fuhr one more time, the Oilers just turned defense into offense, and as a result, walked down 2-on-1. And watch, as soon as Anderson gets his puck, he just lets it go. Bannerman really wasn't in good position at all. He should have been way over to his left by the time that Anderson got possession of that puck. Very difficult to criticize Bannerman over late because of his play in playoffs. He's gone the whole route, but nevertheless, he has not come up with a strong performance here tonight.
Anderson gets a goal to go along with his 2 assists. Napier and Lowe the assists on Anderson's goal at 15:54.
Well, let's take a look. After, you could see Fuhr was way out of his net. The Blackhawks were swarming all along. Kevin Lowe picks up possession of the puck and then just moved it up ice. And that replay, you could see all the action around Grant Fuhr, but the Blackhawks unable to come up with goal number 3.
And it's a 7-2 hockey game. And Bannerman looks back and sees that puck ricochet out quickly. The maintenance crew seeing more ice time than several players here tonight. Glenn Anderson, who this season had 42 goals and 39 assists for 81 points. And the Blackhawks for this season. And the Blackhawks for this season in a gallant effort here in the playoffs against the champion Edmonton Oilers. Here's Yaremchuk angling in, screeches to a halt, and his pass is intercepted with 2.5 minutes left. 7-2. The Oilers by 5. They have outscored the Blackhawks by 18 goals in this 6-game series. 43 goals for the Oilers. And 25 for Chicago. 2 minutes to go. And this place will be deafening in tribute to their team as we count down the last couple of minutes. Gretzky racing after O'Callaghan. Gretzky takes it away. Right in front, Curry, number 4. Jari Kurri scores his 4th of the night, and that's assist number 4 for Wayne Gretzky, and it's 8-2.
Well, Wayne Gretzky never quit. I mean, with only 2 minutes or less to go in the hockey game, he could have well just let Chicago have the puck and come out of their own end zone. Instead, Wayne Gretzky pursued the attack. He took the puck eventually off of number 5, Jack O'Callaghan, and then found who else? Number 17, Jari Kurri. Look at the move Kurri makes. He goes to his backhand once again in tonight's game and puts it right by Bannerman. 8-2 the score, and what a night Jari Kurri and Wayne Gretzky have had.
3 goals last game for Kurri. He has added 4 more here tonight. He now has 18 goals in the playoffs, and with a whole series remaining, he needs just 1 more to tie the all-time record set by Reggie Leach of the Flyers of 19 goals in the playoffs. And add that to the 71 he had in the regular season. That's 89 goals for Jari Kurri this year. Wayne Gretzky gets assist number 4, and Gretzky now with 36 points in the playoffs. That is number 1. A minute and a half to go. Olczyk right in front to Fraser. Olczyk. And you see all the debris in the Edmonton net.
I just hope the players can get out of this game without anybody getting seriously injured by stepping on a piece of this garbage that the fans here at Chicago Stadium have so inconsiderately thrown on the ice.
Coming up after the game, we will select our mobile player of the game. And that player will join Al Troutwig for our post-game comments, talking about the Edmonton Oilers in this series against Chicago and what is over the horizon. The Philadelphia Flyers. And for the Chicago Blackhawks, a grim-looking bench. They're hoping to win this one and force a 7th game in Edmonton. Lindstrom racing after this. We're talking about Kurri is 1 goal away from tying the all-time playoff record. Gretzky, with his 4 assists, now has 36 points, and he's only 2 points away from the all-time point record in a playoff, which he set, 38, 2 seasons ago. And there's a whole series ahead against the Philadelphia Flyers for the Stanley Cup Championship. And here is the crowd responding to their Blackhawks. A team that had turned it around starting in February when Bob Pulford took over. Since that time, they've won 25 games, lost 13, tied 4. They set a record with 23 goals in a 3-game series against Detroit. Then had that spectacular series against Minnesota, winning in 6 games. The last 3 going to overtime.
I really, Al, think they should call the game right now. There is so much debris on the ice, it is absolutely ridiculous. The game need not go on because this game has been decided. There is just tons of debris all over the ice, little specks of everything.
24 seconds ago, the Oilers will play it in slow motion. They don't need any injuries now. 15 seconds left. A standing ovation from the crowd, which has been very much a part of the story of the Blackhawks in this series. They were written off after being clobbered in the first 2 games. 1 second, there it is. The Edmonton Oilers move on to the Stanley Cup Finals. For the 3rd consecutive year, the defending champions will face the Philadelphia Flyers next. And Murray Bannerman being consoled by his teammates as he was strafed for 8 goals in this final game. As the Blackhawks come together in tribute to one another for their great accomplishment, pulling together despite the many injuries, and now the handshake between 2 teams that have been at war with one another for 6 games. Bannerman perhaps driven to tears behind that mask. He is exhausted. Bannerman, for this season, played 75 games.
Well, all the bad blood, Al, is gone now as the players exchange those handshakes. A lot of frustration built up in the course of the 6-game series. A lot of it came out from time to time, but now it's all gone. The Oilers will go on to meet the Philadelphia Flyers, and the Chicago Blackhawks will hear their injuries.
The Campbell Conference Trophy being held by Wayne Gretzky. And the city of Edmonton owns the Campbell Conference. The Oilers proceeding down the steps, leaving Chicago Stadium for the last time, and they are happy to get out of here as they eliminate the Blackhawks in 6 games, fly home to Edmonton, and get ready for games 1 and 2 of the Stanley Cup Finals, which will be played in Philadelphia. The shots on goal in that 3rd period for Chicago 9, for Edmonton 7. So for the game, each team with 27 shots on goal. Coming up, our mobile player of the game will be joining Al Trautwig, the final score here in Chicago Stadium. Convincingly, the Oilers have knocked off the Blackhawks. Edmonton 8, Chicago 2. The Oilers win this series 4-2.
The Oilers to
shot on Curtis, so other than that.
And the Blackhawks for this season in a gallant effort here in the playoffs against the champion Edmonton Oilers. Here's Yaremchuk angling in, screeches to a halt, and his pass is intercepted with 2.5 minutes left. 7-2, the Oilers by 5. They have outscored the Blackhawks by 18 goals in this 6-game series. 43 goals for the Oilers. And 25 for Chicago. 2 minutes to go. And this place will be deafening in tribute to their team as we count down the last couple of minutes. Gretzky racing after O'Callaghan. Gretzky takes it away. Right in front, Curry, number 4. Yari Curry scores his 4th of the night. And that's assist number 4 for Wayne Gretzky, and it's 8-2.
Well, Wayne Gretzky never quit. I mean, with only 2 minutes or less to go in the hockey game, he could have well just let Chicago have the puck and come out of their own end zone. Instead, Wayne Gretzky pursued the attack. He took the puck eventually off of number 5, Jack O'Callaghan, and then found who else? Number 17, Yari Curry. Look at the move Curry makes. He goes to his backhand once again in tonight's game and puts it right by Bannerman. 8-2 the score, and what a night Yari Curry and Wayne Gretzky have had.
3 goals last game for Curry. He has added 4 more here tonight. He now has 18 goals in the playoffs, and with a whole series remaining, he needs just one more to tie the all-time record set by Reggie Leach of the Flyers of 19 goals in the playoffs. And add that to the 71 he had in the regular season. That's 89 goals for Yari Curry this year. Wayne Gretzky gets assist number 4, and Gretzky now with 36 points in the playoffs. That is number 1. A minute and a half to go. Olczyk right in front of Fraser. Olczyk. And you see all the debris in the Edmonton net.
I just hope the players can get out of this game without anybody getting seriously injured by stepping on a piece of this garbage that the fans here at Chicago Stadium have so inconsiderately thrown on the ice.
Coming up after the game, we will select our mobile player of the game. And that player will join Al Trautwig for our post-game comments, talking about the Edmonton Oilers in the series against Chicago and what is over the horizon. The Philadelphia Flyers. And for the Chicago Blackhawks, a grim-looking bench. They were hoping to win this one and force a 7th game in Edmonton. Lindstrom racing after this. We're talking about Curry is 1 goal away from tying the all-time playoff record. Gretzky, with his 4 assists, now has 36 points, and he's only 2 points away from the all-time point record in a playoff, which he set, 38, 2 seasons ago. And there's a whole series ahead against the Philadelphia Flyers for the Stanley Cup Championship. And here is the crowd responding to their Blackhawks, a team that had turned it around starting in February when Bob Pulford took over. Since that time, they've won 25 games, lost 13, tied 4. They set a record with 23 goals in a 3-game series against Detroit. Then had that spectacular series against Minnesota, winning in 6 games. The last 3 going to overtime.
I really, Al, think they should call the game right now. There is so much debris on the ice, it is absolutely ridiculous. The game need not go on because this game has been decided. There is just tons of debris all over the ice, little specks of everything.
24 seconds ago, the Oilers will play it in slow motion. They don't need any injuries now. 15 seconds left. A standing ovation from the crowd, which has been very much a part of the story of the Blackhawks in this series. They were written off after being clobbered in the first 2 games. 1 second, there it is. The Edmonton Oilers move on to the Stanley Cup Finals. For the 3rd consecutive year, the defending champions will face the Philadelphia Flyers next. And Murray Bannerman being consoled by his teammates as he was strafed for 8 goals in this final game. As the Blackhawks come together in tribute to one another for their great accomplishment, pulling together despite the many injuries, and now the handshake between 2 teams that have been at war with one another for 6 games. Bannerman perhaps driven to tears behind that mask. He is exhausted. Bannerman, who this season played 75 games.
Well, all the bad blood, Al, is gone now as the players exchange those handshakes. A lot of frustration built up in the course of the 6-game series. A lot of it came out from time to time, but now it's all gone. The Oilers will go on to meet the Philadelphia Flyers, and the Chicago Blackhawks will hear their injuries.
The Campbell Conference Trophy being held by Wayne Gretzky. And the city of Edmonton owns the Campbell Conference. The Oilers proceeding down the steps, leaving Chicago Stadium for the last time, and they are happy to get out of here as they eliminate the Blackhawks in 6 games, fly home to Edmonton, and get ready for games 1 and 2 of the Stanley Cup Finals, which will be played in Philadelphia. The shots on goal in that third period for Chicago 9, for Edmonton 7. So for the game, each team with 27 shots on goal. Coming up, our mobile player of the game will be joining Al Trautwig, the final score here in Chicago Stadium. Convincingly, the Oilers have knocked off the Blackhawks. Edmonton 8, Chicago 2, the Oilers